Now let's talk about the average and median net worth for Americans in their 30s. And according to the data from the survey, Consumer Finance from the Federal Reserve, for people between the ages of 30 and 34, the average net worth is about $122,000 and the median net worth is $35,000. If your net worth is over $957,000 and you're between the ages of 30 and 34, then you are considered in the top 1%. Let me know in the comment section down below if you're one of them and what you do for a living. For people between the ages of 35 and 39, the average net worth is $274,000 and the median net worth is way behind at $55,000. If your net worth is over $4 million and you're between the ages of 35 and 39, then you're considered in the top 1%. Now, these are very interesting statistics, and there seems to be a gap, a big gap, between the two age groups for the top 1%. And what stood out to me is that the average net worth doubled between 30 and 34 and 35 and 39. But the median net worth barely moved from 35,000 to 55,000. And I didn't truly start investing until I was 31 years old. And I had a really late start on my investment journey because I had over $110,000 in consumer debt that I managed to pay off in 2016. I created this checklist way back in 2015 when I started my financial independence journey. And you can download this checklist for absolutely free by visiting firestation.com/resources. The very first step you have to do is to figure out your financial independence number. You can also download my FIRE calculator for free on the same website. But this is where you need to have a monthly budget, spending plan, and savings plan. Once you have your monthly budget figured out, then you'll know how much you spend annually. For example, if your monthly spending is $5,000 a month, then your annual expenses are $60,000 a year, right? If you maintain the same budget, let's just say, going into your early retirement, your FIRE number will be $60,000 multiplied by 25, which gives you $1.5 million. Just make sure to account for inflation based on the year you're going to retire, okay? And the next step is to make sure you have your rainy day fund to cover your insurance deductibles. If you have a car insurance deductible, that's $500, a homeowner's insurance deductible for let's say $1,000, and a medical insurance deductible of $500, then you should have at least $2,000 saved in your rainy day fund. This is not the step where you fully fund your emergency fund, not yet. The next step is to contribute to your 401k, but only up to your employer match. This also applies to people who have a TSP, 457, or 403b. So if your employer says that if you personally contribute 6% of your income and your employer contributes 3% of your income, then the minimum contribution to your 401k should just be 6%. You should never leave free money on the table, right? And the next step is to start paying off your high interest debt. When I was on my debt-free journey, I started with my credit cards first because they were charging me 20 to 25% in interest every month. Once I got rid of those, I paid off my personal loan, 2 car loans, and a 401k loan. And I was actually stuck on step 4 for 2 years because I spent 2 years in 2014 and 2015 to completely pay off $110,000 in total consumer debt. And then in 2016, I spent about 5 months to fully fund my emergency fund. And step 5 is extremely important because this is the step that's going to prevent you from getting back into debt again. And I never got back into debt again because I had at least 6 months of my expenses set aside in a high yield savings account. And I had about $20,000 in my HYSA, and it was only to be used for anything unexpected and necessary. Remember those 2 words. When it comes to using an emergency fund, is this for something unexpected and necessary? A blown tire is always unexpected and necessary to repair, right? But going out to a party is not considered unexpected or necessary. And the next step is to max out your Roth IRA and HSA. And I've made plenty of videos about the investment strategies for Roth IRA and HSA, and I'll put those links in the description below. But the next step is to max out your employer-sponsored retirement account like the 401k, TSP, or 403b. Remember, back in step 3, it was just to contribute up to the employer match. By the time you reach step 7, this is where you max out your retirement contribution up to the IRS limit. And I'm gonna stop here. If you wanna get a full tutorial on the FIRE checklist, be sure to check out this early retirement checklist video for the full tutorial, all right? And the reason why I show that checklist is that there are a lot of Americans in their 30s who are still trying to figure out the best way to prioritize their investments. And the other problem a lot of 30-year-olds have is they have way too much equity in their home, but not enough cash saved or their retirement invested. Here are some common mistakes I want you to avoid while you're in your 30s. Mistake number one is buying a home that is way outside of your budget. Just because you make $100,000 a year, it doesn't mean that you should take out a $500,000 mortgage loan. You need to look at your mortgage statement right now and see how much of that payment is being taken out of your income every month. The basic rule of thumb is to maintain 25% of your income in housing expenses. If you have more than that, you need to consider downsizing or increasing your income. The only gray area I can see is if it's at 30% of your gross income, but your income is projected to increase by 5% in a few years, then I would say you should just stay in the house and keep your budget tight until your income goes up. Mistake number two is not putting your cash in a high yield savings account or HYSA. There are so many FDIC insured banks right now that will pay you so much more than Bank of America, Chase, or Wells Fargo. If you have $20,000 saved in an emergency fund, you need to move that to a HYSA that will pay you interest that somewhat matches the annual inflation rate. Putting $20,000 in a Bank of America, which pays 0.01%, is just $2 in annual interest. But putting that $20,000 in a HYSA with a 4% APY is $400 in annual interest. That's a big difference, right? And mistake number three is co-signing a loan with a friend or family member. Please do not do this. There are so many people in their 30s who co-sign their loans with someone they know, and they get screwed in the end. If your co-signer defaults on the loan, you're gonna end up being responsible for the loan, which could negatively affect your credit scores. I co-signed for someone's car loan one time, and that hurt my credit scores back in, it was like 2010 or 2011, because he failed to make his car payment several times. When I finally convinced him to refinance his car loan to take my name out of it, my credit scores went back up. And I even had to call the credit bureaus to fix my credit reports to show that I no longer had that loan. And the bottom line is that you should never do it, okay? And mistake number four is taking money out of your 401k early. There's supposed to be a trend on TikTok or that 401k is a scam and that people should take their money out early. I don't know why people are making those videos, all right? Please do not do this. What you put into your 401k today is going to grow exponentially in 30 years. Not to mention that you could save money on taxes if you have a Roth 401k during your retirement. If you take out an early withdrawal right now, you're gonna end up paying a 10% penalty, federal income tax, and state income tax if you live in the income tax state. If you're in an absolute emergency and you have no other ways to take cash out of your ATM, maybe consider using a 401k loan instead of the 401k withdrawal as a very last resort. And I hate to even recommend that because it's going to slow down your retirement even longer. And I had a 401k loan in the past, and I would never recommend anyone doing it. This should be the very last line of your defense. I have a 401k loan video coming out on Friday to explain how it works, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't done that already. And mistake number 5 is investing too conservatively. And I've seen so many people's retirement portfolios with their money parked mostly in bonds. I don't know why, when they're still in their 30s. I'm not allowed to give you specific financial advice, nor should you ever listen to some random YouTuber, including myself, for any type of financial advice. Not that I'm ever gonna give it to you. But if you're the type of person who never reviews their retirement portfolio, today is the day to do it. If you max out your 401k at $22,500 in the year 2023, but you have half of that going into bonds, your annual rate of return might be in the low 5 or 6%. If you're too safe with your investments in your 30s, you're not gonna get the kind of return on your portfolio you need to get. I'm gonna do a detailed comparison of the target date retirement funds and index funds in the future live stream. And if you're curious about your eligibility to join my private client program, you can schedule a free 20-minute session with me by visiting firesuccess.com/coaching. And if you want to do the work on your own, feel free to download my free financial resources by visiting firesuccess.com/resources. Just remember that every year you miss out on a retirement contribution could delay your retirement by multiple years. If you miss out on your investments in your 20s, it is never too late to start in your 30s. make every year count and contribute to the maximum if your budget allows it.